but you have managed in a way that I find fascinating to combine the cultivation of self-awareness with operating in the world at a high level.
I wouldn't say I'm necessarily there yet, but it gets a little easier every year. Like, yeah, the Feynman quote is a brilliant one. He's right. We fool ourselves all the time. And I still fool myself all the time because I still have strong beliefs and opinions. For example, even though I don't tweet a lot about politics, I do have strong political opinions. And that is a form of fooling myself because, politics is a man-made game. It doesn't really exist in the real world. There's no tree is aware of politics. And I do, even though I don't like to, even some of my beliefs are filtered and line up in bundles based on my chosen media sources and whatnot. So I fool myself all the time. But just if you can fool yourself a little bit less, then you can navigate reality much better. It doesn't take a lot. Most people are just living very unconsciously, unexamined life. So it just gives you kind of a leg up. And I agree with you in that you can always check out of the game, and it's easier that way. But then you're fragile, right? You kind of build resilience by working out hard, and it's hard to be calm until you've lost a lot and won a lot. Like you have to see the ups and the downs before you get tired of the dopamine chase and you sort of realize like, okay, this is down, but eventually there'll be an up, or there's an up, there'll be a down. I know how this game works. So one of the things I've been tracking recently is I've been trying to kind of make a list of what are the activities that are sort of non-dual in nature, that don't create their own opposite down the road. So chasing money does create anxiety and suffering down the road as you compare and you win and lose and so on. Chasing fame also has its downsides where you're now open to insult and attacks and being canceled and whatnot. So what activities are intrinsically true in and of themselves and are a free lunch? And so those include things like meditation, yoga, creating art, playing, reading for fun, not necessarily for knowledge or education, writing, journaling. You can even be building a business as long as you're doing it for the craft of it, for the flow of it, not necessarily for a given outcome. Although it's hard to do that. At least externally, it seems like Elon Musk is doing that. He's building rockets to get to Mars, not to make money or to be famous. Although he's getting those as byproducts. So I think that kind of this whole not fooling yourself, paying attention to yourself, not taking yourself too seriously, examining your own thoughts from first principles, and kind of doing activities that are done intrinsically for you as opposed to for the external world. They just make your life better. I'm not doing these things to be a stoic sage, right? Honestly, one of the downsides of the Stoics is they don't look like they were having a lot of fun. I still like to have fun, right? Now, obviously, a loss has been a lot in translation. I know they had their vomitoriums and they had their orgies and whatnots. But the Stoics, just at least the way it's modern projected. And this is one of the reasons why I do like Osho. People give Osho a lot of flack, and they should. He was a little crazy in some ways, but he was having fun. He had a good time. And you're alive. You have one very short life. When your life ends, it goes to zero. It's to you, it's indistinguishable from your perspective. Your death is indistinguishable from the end of the world. As far as you're concerned, the world has disappeared. Because when you came into existence, the world appeared. When you go out of existence, the world disappears. And that is so consequential that it makes the rest of your life inconsequential. And that is a form of freedom. And so you should enjoy yourself. You should not suffer in this life. If you are just constantly suffering, then figure out how to get out of that suffering. If you can't get out of that suffering, then figure out how to redefine your internal worldview so that you don't necessarily view it as suffering any more than the extent that you need to get out of it. These days, we borrow a lot of suffering on behalf of other people. A lot of people want to be a little Christ carrying crosses for others. It's a miserable existence. You're actually not doing them any favors either. You carrying their cross isn't making their life any better. The better way is for you to be happy and successful and healthy and then go save them, like literally save them physically, not necessarily just, sit around suffering for them. Or at least that's the life that I choose to live. I'm going to end with one story. There was a guy that I met in Thailand, Craig, I forget his last name, but he used to work for Tony Robbins. And I met this guy and we were on vacation in Thailand and he was just the happiest person. He was just happy all the time. And he just seemed to be able to laugh it off. And as far as I can tell, he had a good life. He had stuff going for him, but it wasn't like, he had this incredibly enviable life where you would drop everything and move to Thailand and adopt his lifestyle. He had an okay life, but he was just happy, and not in a forced way, but he was genuinely happy. And so I asked him, I said, like, how, what's your secret? Why not? And he said that, he used to work for Tony Robbins and he used to fly around setting up events for Tony. And, he was always sitting in the front row and taking notes and setting things up and learning and listening. And he just kind of started seeing through his own internal BS. He got to this point where, like you said, like he was fooling himself into unhappiness. And he just decided one day, he said, you know what? I have no responsibility to anybody in this world other than me. And or if I do have a responsibility, there's kind of this weight of responsibility that goes on where we're like, oh, I need to live up to some imagined self. What he realized was, he said, somebody in this world, somebody has to be happy all the time. That is somebody's job, to be that role model for people in the world. That might as well be me. I'll be that guy. I'll take on that burden. And he decided to be the happy one. And I just thought that was simple and brilliant. And he did it. And he lived it. So, I want to be that guy who is successful, peaceful, happy, enjoying life, blissful, meditative, spiritual, successful, and, as healthy as I can be, and famous and rich, and not give a damn about any of it. So if I lose it all tomorrow, I still want to be happy. That's it. That's where I want to be. And I'll just make that decision because somebody has to be that person. It might as well be me.
I love it, man. Naval Ravikant, otherwise known, aka Naval Ravikant, but Naval Ravikant, at Naval on Twitter, Naval. And he has the podcast, of course, Naval, Naval. You can find that anywhere you find your podcasts, the blog, nav.al. Previous conversations we've had, and we've had quite a few, you can just search Naval on the website, tim.blog/Naval. Anything else you would like to add? Any other resources, places people can say hello on the internet, recommendations, asks of the audience, Naval?
I'm mostly on Twitter. Eric Jorgensen recently put out a book which had a bunch of my sayings called The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. It was very nice of him. I don't make any money off of it. It's free on the internet. You can just download it, I think, at Naval Almanac. Clever little turn of phrase. Yeah, I think that's it. We'll see you on the interwebs. I wish everybody has a wealthy, healthy, and happy life. Like, go get it.
Thanks so much, Naval, for taking the time. This is awesome. And to everybody listening, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, don't fool yourself. Sit down, spend some time with your mind, and don't be too hard on that roommate in your head.